All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the Small Business Strategy Committee meeting for June 2025. For those of you that do not know, my name is Bob Nelson. I am the Director of Communications for the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, and I am also the staff liaison to this committee. And today, I just go over a couple of housekeeping rules before we do our introductions. I do want to remind everybody it is the Chamber's policy that automated AIs are not allowed into meetings. We do record the meetings for viewing later, but we do turn down any AI note takers that attempt to attend the meeting. So just to give you some insight into that. I don't know who our board chair liaisons are, but clearly they are not here. Unless Cameron, do you know?
I do not know.
Mary
No,
Lou,
I
are you my board
apologize.
liaison?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
but
Well, hey, I'm just going to check before I say they're not here. If I say they're not here and it turns out to be one of you guys, then I'm in hot trouble. So I don't really have any news from them. It does not look like we have any representation of elected officials here today, so we would not have any updates from them. Let me go ahead and I will do introductions. We'll go ahead and start with Cameron. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what draws you to this committee meeting.
Sure thing. No, thank you. My name is Cameron Mitchell. I am with Counsel Legal Firm. I believe we are a newer member of the chamber. And my role at the firm is I handle most, if not all, of the business and transactional needs that come through the firm. And so part of the draw here is the involvement with small businesses and just being a resource where we can be for those types of questions and services.
Thank you, Cameron, and thanks for joining us today. And Mary Lou?
Hi, I'm Mary Lou Ruiz, and I am the general manager for Superstition Springs Center. And I just enjoy connecting with other small businesses. We have a lot of small businesses here in the center, so I love learning from everyone and seeing how I can incorporate that into the multitude of small businesses we have here at the center. And yeah, it's a great group.
Thank you, Mary Lou. And that concludes the introduction section of today's meeting. Let me go ahead. I'll just turn this over to today's speaker. Andrew, and I apologize. I actually dropped your last name on the email that I had with your listing. So I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself if you would. And then feel free to carry forward right into your topic today.
Okay, thank you, Bob. My name is Andrew Hamilton. I am the Occupational Program Director for the Accounting Department at Mesa Community College. And so what I'm going to talk about today is accounting and what it has to do with, private businesses, small companies, that type of thing. And some of the classes that are offered at MCC that can help bring about better knowledge for business owners so that they can have a better handle on how to run their business. What I found a number of years ago, there was a class that I taught, basically kind of like shooting from the hip, because at the time I really wasn't sure what subjects to talk about. So I had to ask the business owners, what kind of information do you need? What's important to you? And most of the people did not know basic bookkeeping skills. They also needed to know financial statements. They needed to have a handle on inventory and how to analyze the company on the inside to see if they're generating a profit, and also be able to project into the future to see if that's going to still be the case, or if they needed to change something, in the event that they're not doing as profitable of a job as they hoped. So anyway, what I want to talk about is we have some classes that we offer. The first one is the first semester course that all business students take, which is Accounting 111, and it's ACC 111. So It is an introductory course to financial accounting, and it takes it from the perspective of a consulting type firm, and the person running it is, providing a service to do, I think, consulting work for customers, and it's looking at it from an independent proprietorship perspective. Okay. I find that a lot of students that are taking that class, many of the students, in fact, are professionals. And not just high school graduates or, people who've been, just recently out of high school. I find that a lot of people come into this class who are working, say, as a project manager, or they may even be a vice president who just got promoted into vice president of finance, and they're like wanting to know basic accounting concepts. So this class, it will wind up digging into talking about debits and credits. One of those things that people, you know, probably have an innate fear of, but the way I teach the class, I have my system of figuring out debits and credits, which makes it a lot easier. I actually just got through generating an MP4 video for my summer class, and I had someone write back saying, "Thank you very much for this video, because I was hoping, I was thinking I might have to find a tutor, but now I understand debits and credits more easily." So it talks about that, but it also gets into talking about financial statements. Most most businesses, even though they don't have to have a year-end audit, because they're not listed with any uh, stock market, what have you. A lot of times they still have to wind up generating a financial statement and a balance sheet. In the event that, for instance, they go to a bank for a loan, they would have to have that kind of information. That's one of the first things that the bank will ask for. And so we talk about how to do an income statement, a statement of owner's equity, a balance sheet, and statement of cash flows. The statement of cash flows is not quite as important. That was only something put into place by Sarbanes-Oxley because they started realizing, Fortune 500 companies were doing things to cook the books, and so they said, okay, now we need to know where cash is going. So statement of cash flows became required of all Fortune 500 companies that are actively traded on the stock market. That's not necessarily the case with small businesses, so they're able to kind of get away with not doing that. But anyway, that's the first class. There's another class.
Andrew, do you mind if we ask some questions?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So in your experience, are you finding that the students that are jumping into accounting are they right out of high school? Are they a little bit older? Like who's gravitating right now to this industry?
I think it's probably 2/3 are young people, but I'm seeing people who are in their 30s, even 40s, who are taking this class because they say we've always wanted to know more about accounting. We just don't know what it's about, and so they're starting to take it more because they want to learn how to run their own business. A lot of kids want to become an entrepreneur, and they're saying that learning accounting, they've started to realize it's important to understand accounting in order to be an entrepreneur. There's one or two things that can go wrong for someone who's starting out, and one of them can be lack of capital, meaning not enough money to put into the business, and the other part is managing the business. If you don't have that, there's always the risk of the business going under. And managing the business is involved with understanding how to, maintain records and how to keep good bookkeeping. Um, I understand that, there's some things that are in the world of accounting that are a little bit extreme, but I explain to students, this is the way it's done in accounting if you want to pass the CPA exam. There are shortcuts that businesses take, and I do understand that. And I do kind of address that, especially with my in-person classes. I'll say, this is how it is in accounting, but in the real world, this is how it actually gets done. So I try to take it from a more realistic perspective. Um, the one area that I know is important to business owners that doesn't get covered in this particular class is taxes. Okay, because you have to wind up reverting sales tax to state, county, city, that kind of thing. Um, those are things that don't get covered, but there is another class that's offered once a year that will get into more of that type of subject. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just as a kind of a quick follow-up, one of the things that we've noticed in other pursuits that students do at MCC, some of the trades per se, is that students will start these paths, and then businesses will kind of pluck them out of the path while they're still going through the path, because it's kind of like they learn what it is that business may want them to know for the job that they want to hire them for, and then they just kind of pop them right out. Are you seeing that in your path as well, or is it a little bit different?
Well, it's an interesting question because I just got an email from somebody who's looking to hire an accounting assistant. And I believe this is a guy, he has a CPA firm here in the Valley, and he's looking for someone to apply to do accounting assistant work. And I had told my students in Accounting 111 that after this class, they could very easily get a job as a bookkeeper or an accounting assistant in a CPA firm or working accounts payable or accounts receivable in a larger company because I've I've seen in job postings that a lot of times people are looking for a bookkeeper and they really just want a warm body to occupy a seat and they say, we'll train you. And I say to my students, if you understand debits and credits and you understand financial statements, and there's a number of other things in a company that you are familiar with, that already makes you marketable to become hired, in that type of a position. And that's just after one semester. They've already become empowered. So sometimes, yes, a student will come to me saying that they've been offered a position and, and they'll ask me for a professional reference or something like that. So, but they don't wind up necessarily leaving the class. If they are taking an in-person class and they get a new job and they say, it's going to mean that I'm going to not be able to come to class, and I say, okay, fine. The class is also formatted, you could take it as an internet class, and I'll still wind up keeping you in the class. So even though you're not physically able to be there, you'll still be able to take the class, and I just won't take attendance because I know you're going to be there, and we'll just treat it that way.
So, talk to us a little bit about internship opportunities, things like that, that small businesses can engage with to kind of start to introduce themselves. Because a lot of small businesses don't necessarily think of accounting as a separate piece of their business, right? It's usually the owner that's doing it, or that kind of thing. So, talk about how can this class or even MCC help a small business kind of grow to the point where they realize that, hey, maybe I do want someone specific for accounting.
Okay. Um, I will get from time to time someone who's in the class who says that their spouse is running a business, say roofing or plumbing or something like that. And this is the wife who's in the classroom. She said, my job is to keep the books. And so they will wind up taking this class. I also recommend that they take a class in QuickBooks, which incidentally is Accounting 115. We offer that as well. And if they have Accounting 111 and understand the basics of accounting, then when they take Accounting 115, which is your QuickBooks class, they have a better handle on how to maintain records of, their company. And then I also have those who say, I just want to know enough about accounting so that if I do hire an accountant, I can speak their language and understand what they're saying when they're talking to me. So at least, accounting, to get right down to brass tacks, it's another language. And so I will sometimes ask, how many people in this classroom are natural born Americans where English is your first language? And I have hands raised and I say, okay, how many people, this is not your first language, English? And I have some people raise their hands. I say, okay, well, I got a news flash for you. You got a third language you need to learn.
So, just to touch a little bit on the MCC side of things, people can choose to take just 111, or if they want to do the basics of accounting, or if they just want to learn QuickBooks, they can sign up for 115, right?
They can sign up for 115, but I would recommend that they take 111 either alongside the 115 course or take it before the 115 course. There are some aspects about QuickBooks where some of it is basically just, plug and play. You click on something and it does all the work for you. But to understand some of the behind the scenes on QuickBooks, you do have to have a working knowledge of accounting. And I found that to be true many years ago. I was considering becoming an Intuit advisor, and I had to take a QuickBooks course. And they said, okay, the graphical interface, the front cover of QuickBooks, they showed how to go through all that and what icon to click and stuff like that. But then it said if you had to do an adjusting journal entry because something was done in error, they say get an accountant to figure out how to do a journal entry. Well, if you take Accounting 111, you will be the accountant who'll know how to get behind the scenes to make that correction to an error.
And how long have you been engaged in accounting?
Well, I've worked professionally as an accountant, senior accountant, business manager, financial analyst for about 24 years or so. And I've been a professor at MCC for, I think, about 15 years. And I started as an adjunct, which is how a lot of us get started. Worked as an adjunct for a few years and then I was hired on full time. So all said and told, I think 15 or more years I've been working at MCC teaching. So I've gotten my routine down. Let's see, someone's asking, do you recommend online class or in person? I'll tell you, to be very honest with you, um, my class, and I'm being partial about this, my class is just as good online as it is in person. I've had people tell me that. Because I put a ton of MP4 videos in every chapter, which is basically a lecture that was done by a mentor of mine. So, but if you take the in-person class, I do teach Tuesday, Thursday from 12 o'clock to 1:15, which allows people to come during the lunch hour, and and my in-person class is very active. I'm also a natural performer. Um, Besides being an accountant, I'm also a professional musician. So to me, it's almost like a performance. And I'm usually, I bring in real life examples to talk about certain concepts in the in-person class. So if it were me, and I'm not the most stick-to-it type person when it comes to online classes. I prefer in person because that actually motivates me to work at it. If I do online, I think I get bored really quickly. So if you're kind of like that, or if you're very organized and very self-motivated, you could do online. If not, I probably recommend in person. That's for 111, 115, which is QuickBooks. Right now it is only online, but I know my dean has wanted me to try to make it into at least a hybrid class where there's one meeting once a week, and then the other meeting would be on your own time. So the person who actually is teaching that class um, used to be a student of mine, and then he went on to get his bachelor's in accounting and his master's in accounting and his CPA, and he's actually able to take the QuickBooks class and generated a video for every chapter, so it could actually be done online on your own time. Hope that answers everyone's question.
So do you I was just I was looking to see if I could find the homepage on the MCC website for the accounting certificate. I think I found something. Is there a certificate that's available from MCC specifically for accounting? Is
Yes,
that, am I reading that right?
yes, there is.
So the reason I ask is, obviously we've got, Cameron obviously works with a number of businesses through his role, and he may recognize one of his clients as somebody that might, we might want to get you some brush up on some accounting or what have you. What's the best way for someone to help someone get engaged with the classes?
We have two advisors in the business department, and that's their job, is to advise only on business. And they're very good. They're top notch. So one of them is Spencer Peterson, and the other is Tiziana Marengo. She's Italian. Her name is spelled Tiziana, Tiziana. It looks like Tiziana, but it's actually pronounced Tiziana if you're Italian. And both of them are top-notch advisors. That'd be one place to start. And you could also just simply get a hold of me. My address is andrew.hamilton@mesacc.edu. andrew.hamilton@mesacc.edu. And so we could get started with just an introduction to business, which is a GBS 151 class, and then the accounting 111 class. The certificate for accounting is nine courses, and I believe it's 3 classes in accounting that will give you the basic groundwork for financial and managerial accounting. There's the GBS 151 class. There's, I think, a class in Excel. There is other accounting electives, such as the QuickBooks class and personal income tax. And then there's another tax class that has to do with payroll and property tax that is also offered. And I think those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head are the classes that you'd be taking for a certificate. So it gives you pretty decent base to work from.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
Does MCC in general allow for like just to like auditing classes, like just to take a class without receiving credit or anything like that? Does MCC allow that? Like if I had a client or even myself was like, hey, you know what, that I think getting that kind of baseline knowledge would be worth the while. Does
Yeah.
MCC allow
I
people
think
to do that?
I think so. I mean, in fact, it's funny. My wife and I are having that conversation last night. Um, because she's actually telling me she wanted to take a class, and she's like, "Can I take your class?" And I'm like, "Well, I have to do a conflict of interest form saying that I'm not favoring my wife over other students or anything like that." But I said, you could also audit the class, which means the conflict of interest is not there anyway. She's just taking it just because she wants to. I said, "You're invited to sit in my class because, right now my wife's not working." So she just said she wanted to do that just for the fun of it. So yes, there is an auditing uh, piece to it. How it's done, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. You probably need to talk with one of the advisors and see
Okay,
how they handle that. And then probably what'll happen is there'll be some way of getting information to me to say this person is auditing the class, so don't give them a grade.
sure, sure. No, but that's good to know because, like I said, I mean, I've got clients. I've got clients that range from brand new, we're just now forming a business to very established businesses. But I've got clients that are, just in a full, wide range of knowledge base on anything to do with business, whether it's just whether it's accounting principles or whatever. And I not very often, but occasionally asking, hey, where can I learn some of this stuff? And so that's just from a potential resource there.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly audited classes when I was in college. I went to Case Western Reserve University, and I was a music major, Cleveland Institute of Music, but I wanted to take macro and microeconomics, but I was not into doing business, so I audited those classes. And it's kind of funny, I'm the only music student in this room with all these business majors, and I felt like this small. So it should be possible. I mean, they have it available at ASU. They should have it available at MCC as well.
Andrew, question for you. Do you know anything about the certificates that are being offered through the city of Mesa as part of the Business Builder program? Specifically, if accounting is engaged in any of those?
No, I can't say as I had.
I I know there's a list of about 13 different certificates. I didn't know if you happen to know if accounting was one of them or not.
Oh, wow. Um, oh, so you're talking about through the Chamber of Commerce or through MCC?
No, it's actually it's a partnership between MCC and the City of Mesa
Oh,
Department of Economic Development. They
okay,
have a program called Mesa Business Builder, and small businesses based in Mesa are able to apply to take classes at MCC, and the classes are paid for by the program. So it's basically free to
okay,
the student, and the student can get one of, I think there's 13 different certificates that they
okay.
can earn through that program. It's a really, really robust program.
There was something that came up a number of years ago. Um, Somebody wanted to take the QuickBooks class, and we were trying to figure out how to get something done with that. And I believe it was through the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. Um, it was some deal where I think they were asking, did they need to buy a book, and was that going to be covered uh, by Mesa Chamber of Commerce? And I think it turned out in the long run that they actually didn't need the book. The person teaching the class said, book's not necessary. Everything's done uh, online on the software. So. But then I think there's some question about can we make this thing free of charge, and I didn't know how to approach it, so it didn't go any further than that because I had not run into it any time since then. But I guess we're going to have to start talking about that and having a conversation about it.
Yeah, so I did find the program. I just put the link into chat. And accounting is one of the certificates that's available through that program. So if you know any Mesa-based small businesses that are looking for that opportunity, again, that's at no cost to the business owner
Hmm.
or the business person to take advantage of that. So
Okay.
feel free to share that around because it's a fantastic resource.
Yeah, I just downloaded it. So I just saw accounting's right there at the top of the list. So like,
Good.
wow, how about that?
Yeah, it's a really cool program. So the chamber is involved in the program. We're just not necessarily involved in this particular element of it. So,
Okay. Any other
so what,
questions? Yeah.
Andrew, what else? If you're a small business, if you're just starting out, let's say you just open your door or what have you, what would you say are probably the two or the three most important things to remember in relation to keeping track of your accounting?
Keeping good books on your revenues and your expenses. Even if you have not gotten any kind of training in accounting whatsoever, you know, and I have been working as an independent contractor myself, because you know, as a musician, I provide private lessons, and my wife and I keep track of every dollar that's paid for private lessons. And when I do my taxes at the end of the year, I wind up recording my revenues on my income tax return, and I take take advantage of any deductions that are available to me, so I don't wind up paying, FICA, Social Security, Medicare twice over. If I can, avoid the double taxation there. Um, I've been told, it's a possibility of becoming incorporated, but I talked to my enrolled agent. He said, you don't make enough money to make it worth your while. He said, I'm still kind of small peanuts, but again, my wife and I, when we started this whole thing out, one of the things we did was a little bit of market research. We went out and started looking, and I'm going to use music as an example. We went out and looked at other music stores to find out what do they charge for lessons. And then we figured out if I have a studio out of my home, I will not have the overhead that I have to pay for, like these music stores have to pay for, because usually what they'll do, they'll charge a certain amount and keep about a third of it for themselves, and two-thirds of the rest goes to the person teaching the lessons. So I've been able to tell people I can charge the same thing that music stores charge, but I don't have the overhead that they have. And on top of that, you have somebody who has a degree from one of the top music schools in the world. So that's always been my selling point. Marketing has been one of those things where I had to get my name out there. I've gone to like Andrew's Fine Violins, I've gone to Milano's Music, I've gone to some of the schools and put my name out there. I've talked to the conductor for a Metropolitan Youth Symphony. She knows me and winds up sending students my way. So, those are the two things that, even more so than accounting. I mean, once you open your doors, you got to get your name out there. You got to build up a network. That part is true, whether it be a web page or going out and visiting other people and saying, "Hey, I'm here." Um, but when it comes to the accounting part, I would set up a separate checking account for your business. And I tell this to my students, do not set up a business account. Don't go to the bank and say, I need a business account, because business accounts charge you a nickel and dime you for every little thing. I would just go ahead and get a separate personal checking account and run all of your checks coming in through that account. Payments that have to do with the business should come out of that account, so that that account is a separate account from your personal checking account. See what I mean? And then if you get a credit card, it should be tied to just that account for the business, separate from your credit card for your personal account. And that's one of the first things that people do. For me, again, my business is not big enough to, have to go through that much hoop jumping. But if it's a if you're pulling in, I don't know, 50,000 a year, let's just pull a number out of the air. If you're putting in about 50,000 in revenues a year, yes, I would wind up having a separate account to run everything through that. So then when you wind up sitting down with your tax person, it'll be a lot easier to you know, gather up all the information that you have because it's going to be run through one account. And I would always wind up going through my check registers and my credit card statements and pulling out everything that is deductible, okay, that could actually use. I'm not a tax person, I'm not a tax expert, but I do know enough about tax to know what it is I can and cannot deduct on my income tax return. So if in this case, if I were to take a personal income tax class, it would not be so that I could do my own tax return for myself. I depend on the experts to do that for me. And I'm more than happy to pay, their fee once a year to make sure that my taxes are done properly.
So let me ask you this question, because you mentioned the idea of kind of transitioning to having experts do things for you. Um, at what point, if you're a small business owner, should you start to think about the fact that, hey, maybe my accounting should be with a specialist as
Yeah.
opposed to just doing it yourself? What are some of the red flags for that?
Um, that's a good question. I think what you should probably do is start asking around to find out what people charge. Um, and then see month by month, can you afford it? I I don't know if there's like a dollar limit or something like that, at least a floor dollar amount to say, but at this point that you should start getting someone to do it for you. I would guess if you're doing, say, 100,000 a year in revenues, that would probably mean that you're really busy with the bookkeeping, that in order to concentrate on the business at hand, you might have to have someone do work for you. And hopefully at that point, say 100,000, we're talking under $10,000 a year. I'm sorry, under 10,000 a month of revenue coming in. You should at that point be able to afford to pay somebody, I don't know, 250, 500 a month or something like that to handle your books for you. And a lot of these bookkeepers who run this kind of business, they can take, 3, 4, 5 companies on and actually make a decent living by doing that. And so they could probably charge you, I'm guessing about 500 a month. If you had 4 or 5 customers like that, that's a couple thousand a month. You'd have to go more than that. You'd have to charge more than that to make it worth your while. So I would guess it could be, I don't know, 1,000. I'm hazarding a guess because I don't know for sure off the top of my head. It's been a long time since I even looked at that.
Okay. Well, let's open it up for questions. Anybody else want to ask any questions of Andrew? No? We good? Everybody good?
I guess we're pretty thorough there,
Troy, you
Bob.
got something for
It
me?
was actually really good information. I jumped on late, but it was fantastic information, and I appreciate what you shared.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I do have a couple of other sort of agenda items to cover before we conclude today. But if nobody's got any questions, I'll thank Andrew. Andrew, thank you. You are obviously welcome to hang out for the rest of this call. Just so you guys know, we are going to start making some adjustments, kind of to the format of the committee. We are picking up a new chair for this committee. I like Rex came to mind, and I can't remember. I can't remember Rex's last name. Trish, you're gonna have to save me. Okay, thanks for that, Trish. Anyway, so we are going to pick up a new chair for this committee, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to plan out sort of a sequence of skill-based
Rex
sales
Kimball.
team. Thank you, Rex Kimball. We're going to create a sequence of skills-based sessions where if you attend all of the sessions in a given series, we're going to work on trying to get some sort of a certificate, like you're a chamber small business certified or something like that. So Rix and I are working really hard on kind of what that would look like in terms of content and in terms of information that we would provide. So stay tuned for that. I do want to let you know next month we do have Dr. Krista Fabric scheduled. She's going to talk to us about social media marketing. She is also from MCC. Andrew, I don't know if you know her. Do you know her? What's your review there? You want to talk her up a little bit before?
Yes, she's fantastic. She's very smart, very smart lady, and she's always bragging about her daughter and all of her achievements. But she's been an adjunct for a while, and then she's been brought on board and now is full-time professor. And I always like talking to her because she always keeps me entertained and keeps me thinking.
Very good. So she will be our presenter next month. And then after that, it looks like we'll have Charlotte Garul. Is it Garul? I believe is the pronunciation on that. I apologize if I don't get that right. From CMG Strategies will be the presenter in August. And then from there, we'll start announcing a new lineup of content going forward. So
It's Charlotte Garule.
is it Garule?
Yes.
Did I do that right? Okay. Thanks, Trish.
You're
So
welcome.
if you have any content suggestions, if there's anything that you would like to see us do a deep dive on, we will probably plug in a more complete look at the Mesa Business Builder program because it is geared towards small businesses. So look forward to information on that, as well as just other programs and services that we know are out there to the benefit of small businesses. So if you've got one that you want us to do a deep dive on and come back and do a presentation on, certainly feel free to shoot me an email and I'm happy to do the look on that. Oh, okay. Thanks, Rosie. I was just reading your message there. So Rosie's telling us that she heard the speaker at the Women's Business Connection last week focusing on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very powerful resource for you as a small business. So maybe we will line somebody up to kind of do a deep dive, or I'll talk to Charlotte or I'll talk to Krista and see if maybe she would be willing to spend some time on LinkedIn in detail. So other than that, I will open up the floor to any comments or questions before I give you back the remaining 13 minutes of today's meeting. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us today. This has been the Mesa Chamber Small Business Strategy Committee meeting for June 2025. Certainly feel free if at any time you need to reach out, you can reach out to any of the chamber staff with ideas or suggestions on programming or content that you'd like to see in an upcoming meeting. With that, thank you all for being here. Have a great rest of your day.